everyone. Welcome to the JEMS Report. My name is Jeff Frankel, and I am the managing editor of JEMS. Today's podcast is going to the dogs, literally. So that's pretty funny. I cracked myself up. Today I'm joined by Janeen Baggette, the founder and chairman of Canines for Freedom and Independence. They're a nonprofit that supports first responders like us by providing trained critical incident response team canines. Hi, Janeen. Welcome.
Hey there. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you. All right. So I guess let's dive right into it.
Yeah.
Can you share your journey? I know you're a veteran, you're a nurse to a handler.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was the aha moment that wanted you to start this nonprofit?
I joined the military right after high school. Went into the medical field in the Air Force, started out in medical administration, and then loved it so much, went all the way towards the Aerovac medic position. And with all of that training in the Air Force, I was able to challenge my boards in California and get my licensed vocational nurse license. And from there, also had my EMT license. I was in the first Gulf War, so Desert Shield, Desert Storm. And when I got out, I was intrigued by the position of a medical liaison, medical treatment, but within a correctional facility. So I actually worked inside the California State Prison System. And from there, transitioned all the way over into law enforcement and went into the anti-terrorism type career field. And that was on the federal side. And then got into state and local law enforcement and the canine side of it, because obviously that's a passion for me. I love the dogs. And so I went that direction. And from there, with all the experiences that I've had, that I've seen, I started my own nonprofit back in 2011, got my status in 2012, and then have been rolling ever since. Probably about 6 years ago, I switched directions of our organization, and now I'm doing the critical incident response team canines for first responders and their agencies. And they help out with a number of different aspects within that career field.
Great. Well, first of all, thank you for your service. That's important to all of us here. I guess the next question is, tell us a little bit more about a CIRT canine. How the different training and deployment from therapy dogs or other patrol dogs?
Sure. So with my history in canine training, I've been in search and rescue, explosives, narcotics handler, and I saw a specialty that was needed that wasn't there. And I then deemed it critical incident response team canines, or CIRT, CIRT. And what they are is they are a specialized dog that's somewhat of a hybrid between let's say a narcotics detection dog, even though they don't smell narcotics, but single purpose detection dog, and a type of therapy dog. I don't like that word. None of us like that word, because it means there's something wrong with us. And there's really nothing wrong with us. We're just dealing with the exposures that we've had due to our career fields. And so these dogs are highly trained environmentally. We take them out. They go on scene to different locations. I don't care if it's a mass casualty situation where you've got lights and sirens going everywhere, helicopters landing and taking off, lots of different noises and things that are going on in the chaos, to everything to a courtroom type setting, and you're assisting a victim during their testimony. You can also use them in situations where you're assisting law enforcement in their investigation. So let's say it's a small child or a stressed victim, and they're having to discuss that situation that happened to them, or they have to take the photos of what happened to them, because that's a lot of evidence that law enforcement really needs. And we do that because it actually assists the law enforcement side in accurately obtaining what really happened. Because as the brain is traumatized, as the cortisol level rises, basically the brain shuts down and you don't think as well. Your recollection goes down in regards to their ability to recollect what happened. And what we're trying to do is get more information from those victims sooner so we can hopefully solve the case faster. But it also helps on the reverse side. So the law enforcement side or the fire department side, when you're helping out with the employee, as we all know, work comes home with us, but home comes to work as well. And they can affect both places. And if you can get someone to think about in a more clear-headed way the things that they're going through and maybe vent or discuss it with someone who has the ability, because myself, I'm trained in critical incident stress management. All of the handlers that get these dogs are trained in critical incident stress management. It's a requirement. We can then, in a confidential way, refer these people on if they need it or if they want it, or we can just give them other resources, but we can refer them on to professional counseling because I'm not a counselor. But I can identify when someone probably needs more than just the ability to vent. And with us as a first responder and that I'm trained in critical incident stress management, there are a number of states and more that are coming that actually have laws that prevent a court case from gaining access to what I hear that a first responder may have said, because I'm not there as an investigator. If I respond on scene to, let's say it's an officer involved shooting, I'm not there to investigate what happened. I'm there to take care of that individual employee to make sure that they are not going to go home that night and do something very drastic. And if they just happen to vent and say something that, for you and I that are in that first responder field, we have some dark humor. And sometimes it comes out in the not so professional way. And I need to be able to be there for this person to say whatever. You know, the exception is if they mention something that they're going to harm themselves or someone else. That's my exception. But if they're saying something that could be considered callous or even rude, I have the ability to maintain that information as confidential, even if a court subpoenas me. The issue when you have with probably very well-intended individuals that have therapy dogs is they don't have the clearance or the background to be there to hear some of this information because it's considered confidential. There could be some HIPAA information there that possibly is seen or heard. There's some CJIS information that could be heard or seen, and CJIS is the Criminal Justice Information System, which talks about the criminal backgrounds of individuals. That takes certain types of training and certifications as the human to not have a questionable background that we can trust this person with this information. And so on top of not having that, they also aren't covered under that peer support law that a lot of states have. And so that person could be compelled to testify in court about what they heard someone say. And in the environment that we're in right now, that could easily turn into a civil lawsuit towards a officer, a firefighter, a paramedic, a whatever. And we're under scrutiny enough as it is. We don't need any added avenues to throw us under the bus. So, big difference between a therapy dog, which typically is used in calm settings, environmentally controlled settings where things are very calm. There's maybe a handful of people. There could be a small group, but in general, therapy dogs are not trained to deal with chaotic, crazy situations where there's a lot going on. And then the handlers aren't trained in critical incident stress management as a general rule. So we want, I guess the term out there right now is culturally competent individuals in those areas to deal with those first responders so they can feel comfortable even if they let out a, let's say it's a bad word, or it's, whatever it might be said, they know that I'm still part of the family. Even though I'm more so on the blue side now, I can still relate to what they do. So
Yep, makes sense. And blue side, red side, we're all on the same side here, so it's all good.
exactly.
I'm curious more about the training aspect. Can you walk us through a typical training pathway from eval to kennel time to graduation and placement? How's that work?
Sure. So most of the time, these dogs are picked from rescues because there's some really, really nice dogs that are out there. And so for me, as a small nonprofit, I'm looking for a dog that we can rescue, who in turn is going to help others rescue those people that need help. And it's a twofer. We help get a dog out of a rescue group. They can then go rescue even another dog. And then from there, we start that process. Typically, I give about a week to 2 weeks for them to settle in. And we start learning who they are as a personality. But what I just jumped over is the evaluation of these dogs. When I go to temperament test them, I need to understand that they are very confident in new situations that could be loud, that could be chaotic. Now, granted, I'm not going to take them to a crime scene, but I am going to take them to a public place, a public business that allows dogs, where there's lots of noises and things going on, lots of people wandering around. And I need to know that that dog is not shy or intimidated with that. I also am looking for, if they startle, that's one thing, but they can't then go into panic mode and try to run away and run from the sound, or on the other extreme would be become aggressive towards the handler. We can't have either one. We also look at, do you like people? Do you want to engage with people? Because just because you're a nice dog doesn't mean you like to engage with people and you like to be pet and you want to be loved on by humans. And so we look for all of that. We look for their willingness to want to work with us. And so even if they don't truly understand what I'm asking of them, are they willing to try? Are they willing to, for food or a toy, depending on what their big currency is, their item that they want to work for, are they willing to attempt something that I'm trying to ask of them, knowing that they don't know me from Adam, to maybe it's put your feet up on a box. Are you willing to at least attempt it? Because if they're not, that's again not something that I need to work with, because I need them to work with me, because we're going to be in a bunch of situations that are going to be new to the dog. We're going to expose them. Once we get them back to our program, we get them the week to 10 days approximately to settle in. We go out in the world and we start training. And that's when we're going to start with the obedience and the socializing and the visiting with people and going out and doing different things. We also, near the end of the program, we also start exposing them to the odors of cortisol. So our dogs are detection dogs, in a sense that we're exposing them to cortisol odors of highly stressed people. There is no certification for that at this time, but what we're doing is we're trying to get them to understand that you are supposed to be attracted to the most highly stressed person that we expose you to, depending on the situation. And that's, of course, the person that we want to focus on. I've done debriefs where we've got a group of people, and one of my dogs will go and sit in front of a person, and he's focused on him. Well, in this situation, that person was not really a dog person. With that being said, I'd call my dog off. My dog ended up doing that 3 times.
Wow.
And out of these like 9 people, I think, would go and just sit in front of this person and basically begging him to pet him because, my dog loves people. And the guy was like, "Hey, I'm sorry, I just don't like dogs." No problem. My dog's already told on you. He doesn't know that at the time because I didn't say anything. And afterwards, I approached him where it's not so obvious. And it was one of those things where he gave me a big old hug. And during this whole event, anyway, I mean, he just started bawling because of what he had gone through. And if that is the start of his recovery, yay for everyone, because that's typically the start. We're so used to, as first responders, having to hold it in and never say anything and never show weakness and, never ask for help because ... whatever, whatever your story is that you've been told. We've got to break that. And the nice thing about these dogs is they're going to tattle on you and I don't have to say a thing. And they're probably going to get you to start talking and I don't have to ask a question. Because you're just going to start petting on the dog and then you just start rambling. It could be just simple stuff about talking about the dog, whatever. So we do this whole training process to get them to really want to engage with people. We do it in a polite way. And then if the person, let's say, invites them up on their lap, we have dogs that are more than willing to get up in your lap, put their feet up or hug on you or whatever. And so that training can take anywhere from 3 to 6 months. It also depends on the age of the dog. So there's certain things we have to gauge and we have to take a little bit slower because as the dogs are younger, we may have to pause our training in certain timeframes because as dogs go through what we call fear periods, we stop training because that is a pertinent time frame that when your brain is actually expanding and growing in and of its own size and the neural pathways are growing and expanding within you as an individual, things get a little cross-eyed. And something that was perfectly fine may not be this week. And we see it in humans all the time. As the kids are growing, it's like, why are you acting this way? Well, between hormones and neural pathways, there are some things that go a little haywire. So the younger they are, it takes a little bit longer to train them. If they're a little bit older, then training's a little bit faster. And so typically we look for dogs that are up to approximately 2 years of age, because with rescues, we don't know exactly how old they are.
Right. Now, are these any kind of dogs, like Chihuahuas, or is it the typical police dog, German Shepherds, Belgian Malamute? What kind of dogs do you train here?
Well, most agencies are wanting the floppy-eared dogs that look a little bit friendlier. Typically, I use bigger dogs, so 40 pounds or more, because depending on the situation that we're in, if we're going to be dealing with some handicapped people, that person may not be able to bend over and pet a small dog. And I don't want the dog automatically thinking that I can just hop up into somebody's lap. And so we typically stick with 40-pound dogs, and I don't care how big they get. I mean, we've had agencies that want a bigger dog, 80, 90-pound dogs. We have agencies that are wanting something on the smaller side, like no bigger than 50 pounds. Right now, predominantly what we've got are labs, lab mixes, German Shorthair pointers. We've got one Dutch Shepherd, believe it or not. We have one Dutch Shepherd, and he's up in Kansas City, Missouri. And as they so quaintly put it, They are a little rough around the edges too, and so they thought that Dutch Shepherd would probably fit in quite well. And Rowdy does. His name is Rowdy, and he fits in quite well with everyone, and he definitely helps out with a lot of the things that are going on within the agency. Of course, they are going through a lot, like most agencies, a lot of stress, a lot of things that are going on, and so, but that's typically. I don't care if it's poodles, golden retrievers, any kind of breed is fine. But what most agencies are looking for is something that doesn't look like one of their patrol dogs, so the dogs that bite. And then I purposefully stay away from, not that I have a problem with the breed because I do love them, but I purposely stay away from anything that looks pit bullish because there are a lot of people out there that are afraid of them. If an agency comes to me, and there is an agency that has one, Norman PD has a pit bull that is one of their critical incident response team canines. It's not one of my dogs, but they are able to come and certify, and they've done so for the last few years. They have a pit bull. She's fantastic. She's a wonderful dog, and they don't have a problem with it, so I don't have a problem with it. So but I purposefully just stay away from the pit bulls just because I want these dogs to come in and go right back out. So as soon as their their training is done.
Yeah, that makes sense. And believe me, I'm no dog expert, but I know the bad rep they get pit bulls. But in my experience, they're great dogs. They're sweethearts. It's definitely the people who make the bad dogs. If you know what I mean. So
yeah. No, absolutely.
And I'm curious, can you share a story where one of your dogs helped someone, a veteran, first responder, survivor, to heal or cope? I'm sure you have plenty of stories, but anything stick out?
A couple stories that some of my handlers, and I call them my handlers, even though they don't belong to me, but they came, the dogs came from me. So just a quick explanation. When these dogs go to these agencies, they become agency property. They're no longer mine. When they respond as their agency. So when I say my handlers, I mean that in a loving way, not in a, ownership kind of way. But I've had a couple really good stories. Off the top of my head, we've had some situations where one of the dogs that is actually assigned to an SRO, which is a school resource officer on the law enforcement side, was walking down with her dog an empty hallway because school was in. And so all the kids are in the classroom. She's walking down the hallway and she said, all of a sudden it was so weird. He just starts pulling me and it's not like him. And so she kind of went with it, or she did go with it, just to see what was going on. There was something that had his interest and she wanted to figure out what it was. And he was pulling towards the side of the hallway, which ended up being a doorway. And right before they got to the doorway, out pops this little girl. And he is stuck to this little girl. I mean, up close and personal. And she starts walking back down the hallway. And that's from the direction that they had just come. So the dog had to do a U-turn. And they're walking back down the hallway. This little girl walks down the hallway and into the admin office of the school, which is several doors she has to go through. The dog's like right there on top of her, into which ended up being the counselor's office inside the admin office. And the dog sits down right next to the little girl. And when the counselor turns around, she's like, oh, well, I was just getting ready to call you because, and what she found out earlier, or what she found out later, is that little girl's mom tried to commit suicide the night before, and she was there. And so this just goes to the training that we put into it, and these wonderful handlers that are being chosen by their agencies to do this work, because you've got to have the empathy. You've got to have that ability to relate to others to really accomplish this kind of work. It takes a team, which is why they're a CIRT canine team.
That's a very powerful story. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, I guess kind of maybe switching topics. How do you define success? What outcomes do you track either for the dogs or the people they support?
I I think my success is being gauged by the more people and the more agencies that we're getting involved, and how, because this is just another specialty that these dogs can do, the more agencies that we can get involved in the proper training of and national certification that we can get these dogs involved in, and it's growing. And so on that side of it is where I see the success of it. There are so many stories that we hear about the bad side of, and name it, whether or not it's fire or whatever. But what I'm seeing, and obviously I'm keeping an eye out for it, is these teams that are going out, and unfortunately we're seeing, and I'm reading these stories about dogs that didn't really have any training, and they're calling them a therapy dog, and they're working in a school, or they're working for a police department or even a fire department. And then unfortunately something bad happens, and it's the dog got loose and unfortunately ran out into traffic and got killed, or it's a dog bit someone, or it's, I mean, the most recent story I just heard of is, unfortunately, a dog got left in the car and it died of heat exhaustion. And
I hate that. That's terrible.
exactly. So, with all of the training that we do, we just grind this into their heads. You have to stay up on your training. You have to maintain these certifications. And there's already a industry standard of what has to be in regards to your training, the numbers of hours, your certification, your documentation, all of these things is already out there. And what I see is that success is we're actually getting that buy-in by these agencies across the country to start following the set standard that's there. I didn't set it. It was being set due to the professionalism of the court cases and the problems that they've seen across the country with different types of detection dogs. And so when the industry standard is stating that you have to follow under FLSA, which is Fair Labor Standards Act, there's certain standards you have to meet. And then under industry standards and case law, there's certain things you have to meet. And there's no difference between a narcotics detection dog and a CIRT canine that's a cortisol detection dog. Even though we won't, at this point, will not be called into court for a criminal case, the liability issues are still there. And that was the whole point of having all of these criterias that you have to meet, is to mitigate the agency or the municipality's liability to suit.
If you can, talk to me a little bit about the biggest challenges your group faces, either funding or sourcing dogs, or maybe something else.
Yeah, funding definitely. We've been running, I mean, even through all the COVID stuff, that really slowed things down because, for obvious reasons, it made a lot of people fearful. And the funding side of it, we're not making really any money off of these dogs. I mean, what we're charging for is basically to cover the costs that I'm putting into the dogs, the gas, the equipment and things like that I buy for these dogs, their medical bills while I have them. And so the grants and the different areas that I'd love to be able to really start delving into is going to be the next big push, because I'd love to expand our program, and funding is a huge part of it. And so right now, part of that is by talking to you, and you guys have been, wonderful at letting me talk about the program and discussing it with you guys, and hopefully getting the word out more. So hopefully we can get this program growing and bring together what I see is the networking side of things, is bring the different sides together to talk, to vent, to have different avenues of communication open, because unfortunately, as career fields, as first responders, we really suck at communicating.
Yes.
And that's part of what I'm wanting to do, is open those communication dialogues between cops and fire, paramedics, depending on if you're from the fire department or not, the hospitals. We all need to start really communicating together, and hopefully we can slow down this progression of the suicides and the people walking away from our job fields, because we're in a bad spot right now across the country on both the fire side and the law enforcement side, because we have so many people that are just walking away. If we're lucky, that's all they're doing is walking away. Worse yet is when they make that drastic decision to take their own life.
Yeah, that's awful. I hate when that happens. Please, if you're suffering, get help. There's talk to your friends, colleagues. There are other options out there. So please,
Yes.
that's my PSA for today.
Yes.
Is there any way for people to get involved with the group? Could they donate or volunteer or partner with you? How can they help?
Absolutely. So anyone who wants to donate, obviously, I mean, it would be wonderful. But when it comes to networking, I love to network, and I don't care if it's even someone that's similar to the things that I do. I don't know of anyone out there really doing what I'm doing. There's some organizations that are similar. I'll team up with them, because it's not about my dogs being everywhere. It's about properly trained dogs that are certified being all over and helping those who need the help. And so that's what it's about. And when it comes to even organizations that don't have something to do with dogs, when I've got our conferences, we've got 2 this year, we hand out information to other organizations other organizations during our conferences. We have swag bags that we give out, different things that companies have either donated, or the pamphlets and things that we get from those organizations, so we can network with others, get that information out there, so the resources are across the board. Because no, not everybody likes dogs. Maybe it's something else. Maybe there's something else that attracts you and that could help you. Whatever it is, we need you to find a way to get through the darkness that you may feel that you're in, and get to that other side where there's light.
What's one thing you wish more people understood about your mission and or the power of your dogs? And again, your dogs in quotes again, because I know.
Yes. No, exactly. I would really like to see people more closely working together. Again, there are other organizations out there that train dogs. There is no reason for, all of us not to train together, as long as we are from the same demographic, I guess is what you want to call it. So for our conferences, we only allow first responders. We don't allow individuals to come, because there is going to be information probably discussed that not the general public just can't hear. And we know that those individuals that are coming have the background checks. But there are organizations out there that don't let their teams come to different trainings or expand their knowledge by going to different things. If it's not mine, find another one. But we need to all work together. And for some reason, that's extremely difficult for some. And there shouldn't be a reason. It's not about me. It's not about my name. It's not about my organization. It's, again, about getting properly trained dogs out there and hopefully saving lives.
Yeah, in the end, it's what matters, right? In my opinion, saving lives, those who need it most.
Right.
Now, where do you see your group in the next 5-10 years? More programs, more teams? What's ahead for you, you think?
Definitely more teams. I have a background in training explosives detection dogs, narcotics dogs. I actually have trained now 2 water leak detection dogs. And so doing some of those other things is possibly in the picture, but this is my focus right now. This is where my passion is. I have been through a lot in my law enforcement career and my military time. I've seen a lot, and I have struggled a lot in my own personal life because of things that I have had to get through. And so right now, this is where I'm going to be focusing everything on. I want to see specialized teams that are similar to a FEMA task force, but I want to see these dogs on those teams that are from agencies across the country that have the proper training in the human, have the proper training in the dog, and have the national certification that my dogs are required to have on a yearly basis. They have to get recertified on some form of a federal disaster response team, because I see and can hear, I've actually even talked to certain individuals who will respond to some of these mass casualty situations, and all they're doing is causing more harm than good. They, just like some of the things we've talked about before, they don't have the peer support coverage. They don't have some of these other things that we have going for us as a current first responder with peer support training. And I want to be someone there to truly help them and not have them wonder if they're going to get thrown under the bus again. And so if we can, build a team that's similar to, and the reason I use FEMA task force is because most everybody knows them, and have something for that purpose. For the law enforcement side, those same dogs can be assisting those local law enforcement officers with the victims and getting those statements, but still be well within our confidentiality and CJIS to not harm that case and not draw from that case and muddy the water that much more. So that's where I see us going. That's what I want to be able to do. And if at all possible, that's going to be what I'm going to get done.
Yeah, that sounds like a great plan. So all the best to you. That's, to be honest, I didn't even know there were water detection dogs. That's new to me, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Well, Janeen, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for all the work you do. I know you are very passionate about this, and it shows. For our listeners and our audience today, be sure to check out their Facebook and website, Canines for Freedom Independence. A lot of good stuff on there. I've been checking it out all week to prepare for this interview. So until next time, stay safe out there.